Patriots Daily is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
What's going on, everyone? It's Taylor Collis here for CLNS Media, and I am joined by PFF salary cap expert and contributor Brad Spielberger. Brad, I don't think there's a contract that's been agreed to this offseason that he hasn't either nailed or come very close to nailing. And with the Patriots having so many potential extension candidates with big names on their roster, figure I might as well go to the best. So without further ado, Brad, thank you so much for joining me, buddy.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, we're waiting on these Patriots to maybe get one of these done so we can see how wrong I am or if I keep the hot streak going.
I think the hot streak's going to be going. If this offseason is any indicator, you've been on fire, my man. So speaking of fire, let's go with Mr. Red Sleeves himself, Matt Judon. So there were some reports that he wasn't really participating in training camp because he may have been going through a hold-in. Now, he's denied this. He said that it's really more about conditioning, which there may be some truth to that. But he was also asked about Trey Hendrickson's extension. Literally just got off the field right now. I'm getting myself together. But yeah, he seemed like he was supporting his brother, a fellow edge defender. And, you know, Judon's a good guy. I don't think he was trying to say anything nefarious, but he's a high producer, a leader on the team. Seems like he deserves a rework deal. What do you think is the most realistic possible contract extension for him, and how likely do you think it is?
Oh, the Hendrickson, connection is huge for Judon, I would say, because they signed the exact same offseason to very similar contracts. $460 for Hendrickson. I think it's about $456 or something for Judon. Similar numbers, and the Bengals had not extended a player with 2 years remaining on his contract in over 15 years, right? So they had not done it. So for him to see another organization do that is very, I'm not going to say leverage, but it's, hey, they're taking care of a guy that has outplayed his deal. I think we'd all agree Judon has outperformed his contract thus far. I think the one thing I would say is Hendrickson's 29, Judon turns 31. I want to say less than a week from now. I would see potentially we get the Stephon Gilmore type raise where they, move $5 million up from next year into this year. Maybe that's a more, a route that both sides are more comfortable with as opposed to a true extension. But I do think something's going to get done. I think he's not holding out or holding in or whatever, but I think he has made it clear he'd like some new money.
Before we move on, I know that there's been a lot of talk about the Patriots, and they got a lot of cap space, and people are saying, oh, they're not spending this money. What are they just doing, sitting on this gold mine? But I know you said that they've actually got very good salary cap health. And there's a lot that goes into this kind of stuff that, on the outside, it's easy to think that, they're not spending money. But what are the factors that go into that number? And why do you think they're really doing pretty well when it comes to their spending?
Yeah, so, I think these things come in waves, right? It's not always consistent or linear or gradual in terms of how you spend money. You might have a couple of huge deals come up and you have these massive signing bonuses or however you ultimately pay out that cash. And you go from having great cap health and all these things to all of a sudden you're making tough decisions, you're cutting some guys, asking for pay cuts, etc. So, yeah, could they be spending more? You could argue yes. They obviously had that massive free agency spending spree in 2021 that we've kind of never seen from them before ever. And so maybe our perception's a bit skewed, but also like we're talking about now, if they take care of some of the guys internally, they'll go up that ranking. And the biggest thing was, I'm guessing it all comes down to Mac Jones's performance this season, where he could need money himself, obviously, but also, do you get bullish? Do you spend around him? Or do you kind of say, well, why would we spend if we're going to add another young quarterback and try to build around that new piece? I think it's a big inflection point after this season.
You mentioned Mac, and I know Matt Groh mentioned that they really wanted to get bigger up front. We saw that through the draft. They got much bigger, Jake Andrews, but also Antonio Mapi. City So is probably going to be a tackle, but he's got guard flexibility as well. The Patriots have a pretty good guard on the roster right now in Mike Nwenu. Now, I'm not sure where to slate him because he's a bigger guy with the league trending towards all this zone running scheme, trying to get outside. He's not a great fit for what most teams in the league are trying to do right now. But with the Patriots and their gap scheme, they're always multiple, but they've been running behind him a lot and had a lot of success. He's also one of the better pass protectors at his position in the league. What do you think would be a fair deal for him, and what kind of players are comparable in terms of if he does end up getting an extension, what he could receive?
You nailed it right there, where I think the biggest sticking point or maybe confusing aspect to this is we don't see the 6'4", 350, 360-pound guard. Like, you want these guys that can run outside zone, that are nimble, that can get out in space and do things. Not that he's incapable of doing that, but like you said, he's a much better fit in a gap scheme. And look, I mean, as you've probably seen, our grades for him are off the chart no matter what he does, where he plays. Obviously just one data point, but at right tackle, left guard, or right guard, or wherever the case may be, he's been pretty solid. So I projected a deal for him, actually the exact same number as Kyle Duggar at 4 years, $60 million. I don't think he's going to get, top end guard money. I think we've now seen that market jump to $20 million a year for a couple players. I do think he'll get a little bit of extra value from whoever pays him, because he could, in a pinch, play some tackle. We've seen some of those guys ask for, whether it's incentives or other ways to earn money, if they do actually get asked to play the more valuable position of tackle. But you mentioned it. For me, when I see the Patriots take all these offensive linemen, in particular Antonio Mafi, who I think honestly does remind me of him from a build standpoint and kind of a play style standpoint, that kind of screams to me like classic Patriots. They're going to let him walk, get a compensatory pick, and they'll have a young kid step in and take over that role.
Absolutely. Another guy they seem to draft a potential replacement for, they took Marte Mapu, who's very similar skill set and size-wise to a Kyle Duggar. Now, I thought you had a really interesting take on Duggar's situation, because while he's super talented, he's super versatile, production by all these metrics, he's a really good player, but he's on the older side. We knew that when he was drafted, and now that he's reaching the end of his deal, he's going to be like 28 years old if he actually ends up on the open market. And you mentioned that could impact his contract. So for the viewers who didn't get a chance to see it yet, what do you think a possible extension could look like for him? Or if he ends up hitting the free agent market, what kind of money could he be making? And how likely is it that the Patriots are actually able to retain him as a key player who does everything for them?
Yeah, and the crazy thing to me was Bill Belichick basically echoing the sentiments you just said at a press conference. I'm not sure we've seen Bill, laud a player pre-contract, right, and kind of give him, some of those chips to his agent and him to go through negotiation. But yeah, the fact that he's already 27 years old is very interesting to me. It's not really a position that we think of longevity, especially for guys that come down, play in the box, and do a lot of the things that Kyle Duggar does. Of course, you have guys that can play until their mid-30s that are kind of your deep third free safeties and do different things. So yeah, like I said, I also projected 4 years, $60 million there. I won't go into the details and all those things, but an upper tier contract at the position. He's an awesome player. He does a lot of different things. Like I said, for us, like top 5 in the average depth of tackle. So he's always making plays during a lot of scrimmage, but is not a bad coverage player, can carry tight ends, can carry number 3 receivers, can even at times, deal with running backs coming out of the backfield. Like, he deserves to be in that conversation. Obviously has the draft capital, all these things. It's again, though, look, they do have Marte Mapu and a lot of other players, Adrian Phillips, guys that can kind of do what he does, but Bill is obsessed with these hybrid safeties now. He just can't get enough of them. You got Peppers back in the fold, etc. Maybe it goes that way of saying he's not going to pay him, or maybe it's, he will pay him because it's his favorite type of player, I think, in all of football right now.
It's interesting. I think the last person Bill really praised in the way that he did Duggar was Lamar Jackson, where he basically was like, yeah, every day Lamar Jackson's getting more expensive. And you saw him talk about Duggar like, yeah, he said those kind of guys get paid, which was pretty wild for Bill. Another guy, very interesting situation, Josh Uche. We saw Alex Highsmith get an extension for the Steelers. We saw the Seahawks, Uchenna Nwosu, get an extension on his deal as well. Now, Josh Uche obviously broke out last year after kind of being quiet for most of his early career, but he's not an every down player. He has the ceiling to be one of the better pass rushers in the NFL. I know Cam Jordan last year went as far as to compare him to Von Miller. Not saying he's that kind of player, again, because his use is a bit limited, but what kind of contract do you think he could demand as someone who, what he does well is so valuable in the modern league, but you don't really want him on the field when you know the run is coming?
That's the thing, right? So the two guys you just mentioned, Uchenna Nwosu and Alex Highsmith, both played more snaps last season alone than Uche's played his entire career, right? I think by like 150. Like, it's not even particularly close. So, he played 375 last year, which was the most he's played thus far. And like you said, of course, what he does great is get after the passer. It was top 10 for us in pass rush win rate and all the underlying metrics, not just the, sacks and the traditional stats, which also showed up favorable for him. So this, again, kind of like I just spoke about Duggar, to me, I think goes both directions, where either it could be Patriots say, yeah, he's not an every down player, he's a specialist, a DPR type guy, we're not going to pay that. Or they say, actually, we can get him for $12, $13 million a year on like a 2-year deal, or work through kind of a, hey, this is the trial period. We're giving you generational money. You know, you're getting that second contract boon, but we're not going to give you, a 4-year, like large, all these things. And so you can see it go both ways. But it's so hard for me to project something like that. I mean, the guy really does not play enough to even get a lot of data on how to comp him to guys. But yeah, maybe they find a way to do it. And I do think, Bill is very comfortable with, hey, this guy is a specific role. He's very good at it. I'm comfortable only playing him in this capacity, and I'm willing to pay up for that. He's done that at many positions, over the years.
Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times. It's 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets and up to $200. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think is going to be, hitting the first home run. All in the app that's safe, secure, it's super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/Boston and get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball.
Are there any contracts that you can think of that would kind of be used as a framework? I was thinking maybe like a Hassan Reddick, but I think he has a bit more every down value and obviously has more experience in a more diverse role. Is it anywhere like that, or do you think maybe another player you could use as a template?
Yeah, the one that jumped out to me was a couple years old now, but Romeo Crennel, when he was with the Giants as undrafted free agent, didn't play a ton, and the Lions kind of took a chance on him, and then after a year, signed him to, I think it was like 3 years, 33, 34 million, maybe something like that. I could be a little bit off there. That's off the top of my head. But he's kind of a, maybe not as situational, but was not at that point like a 700, 800 snap a year type player. And I think they realized pretty quickly, yeah, but he's very, very good at something that is valuable and important to our defense. Maybe if we sign him now, we'll get a discount. Unfortunately, he's dealt with injuries pretty much entire of the last 2 years. But that one always kind of struck me as similar. He's a little bit undersized, and you mentioned the Reddick comp, like he kind of has that build a little bit to a degree. But yeah, it is tough to find a long list of guys you can comp to Uche right now.
Yeah. So a lower priority, I think, in the extension candidates, but someone who does have an important role for them, Lawrence Guy. Now, kind of the opposite of Uche, where he comes off the field in pass rush situations, but gives them so much versatility and consistency against the run. Obviously, also off the field, tremendous. He's a leader in that locker room, fantastic in the community. What do you think a fair extension would look like for him? Because he was holding out for OTAs and minicamp, obviously showed up once the pads and the shells and everything came on for training camp. He's team player, like I said, fantastic character. But if he wants to get paid more comfortably, what do you think would be a fair template for his deal?
The confusing thing to me was, I don't think I've seen a 31-year-old defensive lineman sign a 4-year contract. I can't even think of the last time that happened besides Lawrence Guy. It probably hasn't happened. Like I really struggle to even think of a comp there. So I can imagine maybe it's not even so much about getting way more money, but getting protections, locking in assurances via, guaranteeing some salary for 2024, or doing something that effectively compensates you for, like you're talking about. Like, he's going to be a leader on this team. He's going to be the anchor on the early downs that enables you to do different things. And obviously, Barmore didn't really play last year. Maybe Guy had a bigger role than even he himself anticipated to a degree. So there's things in place there. But yeah, I would imagine it's your classic Patriots, like add some incentives, maybe guarantee some money or shift some money around. I don't know if he's going to get assigned through his age 35 season in 2025, but yeah, not to speak ill of anyone's negotiating skills, but I'm not sure why a guy signed a 4-year deal at 31 years old.
Fair enough. So we've gone through the extension candidates. Which guys do you think are most likely, based on their situations, what they might be demanding? Who do you think is actually most likely to get those extensions? And who do you think may price themselves out of the Patriots' comfort zone?
I think they're going to be willing to work with Judon. Like I said, maybe he doesn't a true extension, but I think they're going to figure this out. He is he has outperformed his deal, and I think Bill has shown in the past, like, you know, if you do show up and still, you know, are a team guy first, but also want to take care of yourself, I will take care of you in return. And then I would say the two big ones, Onwenu and Duggar, I think are what it comes down to really. I would lean Duggar. I think they're going to find a way to get it done. Is that because I'm just still shocked that Bill Belichick said at the podium? Maybe. But I also just do view them as, you know, they're cycling through these offensive linemen. I mean, you tell me, it's almost been kind of strange to me, the lack of emphasis on the entire offensive line. Like, is Riley Reef really a solution to start at right tackle? I don't really think so personally. Like, it's been, I don't even know what they're doing at offensive line right now. So I'll go Duggar.
Yeah, I would say it's kind of hard because I don't think there were a lot of free agents where I think they would be difference makers where the Patriots are comfortable paying them. Like Orlando Brown wanted left tackle money. They got Trent Brown. They didn't have to go that far. And in the draft, I know there were guys that people liked. I liked some people too, but I'm not trading Gonzalez. I'm not trading Keon White. And I'm not trading Marte Mapu. So it's kind of a weird position they're in. Maybe Jonah Williams kind of shakes free from Cincinnati. Sure. We'll see what happens there. I know I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I'm going to ask you to close out one maybe impossible question, but I feel like you're one of the few people who's qualified enough to give their 2 cents and really be insightful here. The running back market. Obviously, one of the toughest positions on the human body in the sport of football. You're getting hit on nearly every play. Longevity isn't very long. And when you're in the prime of your career, you don't really get paid very much. But these guys are starting to kind of stand up for themselves and say, hey, like, we need better contracts. GMs aren't willing to do it, which you can understand from a certain level. Like, at the end of the day, it does come down to money, and you can't be paying a lot to these positions where a guy could get hurt and then he's out for the season just based on how the position goes. So what do you think is a possibility for a happy medium, maybe not so happy medium for one side, but something that's realistic where running backs can get compensated, where, you know, they're not wasting the prime of their lives making as little money as they're probably going to make, where the owners can also maybe be more comfortable and say, okay, I'm willing to do this. And, you know, both sides can be, you know, halfway happy at least.
I think you have to get super, super creative here, because just under the current constructs of the salary cap, I just don't think we're going to see this correct, or I think we're experiencing the correction right now, right? Where they've determined the allocation, the share of the pie that was going to that position does not really align with the you know, level of winning they're contributing to and the replaceability of the player, et cetera, not to get super in the weeds there. So I think you have to look into, you know, for me, for start, let's start with the franchise tag guys, where there is language about a good faith negotiation as it relates to every player, but also with franchise tag players. And I do think for none of the 3 situations this offseason do I think good faith negotiations took place. And so for me, if you're going to tag a player, maybe the rule is you must offer a contract that contains fully guaranteed money that equals at least 2 tags, right? Like your initial offer must have fully guaranteed money of 2 franchise tags. You know, you can literally offer that as the deal, but kind of to establish a baseline of, well, hey, you're tagging a guy once. The threat is we're going to tag you again. If you're using that as your leverage, then why are you then going to say, well, I'm not comfortable giving him, you know, for this year, $22.2 million fully guaranteed, which is not a crazy number. So something like that. My more off the wall, crazy ideas is like, I think you get crazy. It's like with gambling, right? So the prop bets are placed probably mostly on running backs. I would imagine the most action in the prop market is on running backs. Maybe when gambling money is distributed to players, they find a way to allocate the pie again, where if you are the one being bet on, you get a larger portion or a larger share. And, you know, of course, offensive linemen, I guess, could complain or whatever, but like, find a way to compensate running backs in very unique ways. And then the last kind of more simple, obvious one is, you used to be able to get extended after 2 years. That was the standard before the 2011 CBA. You know, right now you have to wait the full 3 years to get extended, and the shelf life of the position is so short that even then can kind of be too late. I mean, Sonny Michel retired yesterday or whatever it was. So like it happens. So, you know, but I do think that we're not really at the end of the road yet. We're approaching rock bottom, but it's got to be creative solutions and find different ways to get them money because the current constructs just are working against them, unfortunately.
Fantastic job, Brad. I knew that was a tough question, but I also knew that you would be more than equipped to handle it. Appreciate you. Appreciate your time, man. If there's anything at all you'd like to plug or promote, the floor is yours.
No, man, I appreciate having me on. I just want to shout out your background here. Very impressive setup you got going on here. Oh, yeah. That's one of the better backdrops in the biz right there. But, you know, thank you again for having me on, and I appreciate it.
Means a lot, buddy. Thank you so much. Thank you all for watching and listening. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We'll see you next time.